Go ahead.
It is 9 o'clock on Tuesday, September 24th. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Everybody get a chance to look through everything. So far, I think this might be the biggest packet of minutes for the year so far.
Well, I don't know. We've had
some pretty big ones. It's up there in the top 10, though.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this will be a challenge for the grammar police, see if they're
Well.
on duty today. Opportunities here.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes unless somebody has something, but I didn't notice anything.
Mr. Chair, I did find something in the county board, the budget meeting minutes, page 18 of 38. For some reason, I didn't catch this last week, but the third paragraph from the bottom, where it says, she is okay with the confidential secretary and communication officer positions that were approved with the 2019 budget. I would just strike that were approved with the 2019 budget because the confidential secretary was not approved with that. So just that confidential secretary and communication officer positions, period, and then just strike that were approved with the 2019 budget.
Or change it to the 2020 budget, because that's what we were talking about, is the 2020
And
budget.
we didn't approve them for the 2020 budget either, so just to strike
No,
it.
but this was in the beginning, wasn't it? Yeah, this is August, so this is when we were starting to
Right.
talk about it.
Right, we were talking about it, but we had not approved them, so. But with that,
So what do you want pulled?
just
Strike that last
strike
part.
that were approved with the 2019 budget.
Did you find that?
We've got the note here. We'll have to go back and
You'll
check
go back and
but
find it?
we can make
All
that
right.
change.
Christine can pull you the page and show you the actual words with hers. It might be easier.
Yep.
All right. With that, you have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheim. Was that a second by you,
Second,
Commissioner
yeah.
Houston?
Mark, you're okay with that, striking
Yep.
that? Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there any other further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved from September 17th. Today's agenda, is there anything that needs to be modified to today's agenda?
I thought Attorney Kreiser had.
Today's agenda? No. No. Okay, perfect. No, if there's no other additions or corrections to today's agenda, I'll look for motion by Commissioner Potter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Husum. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda is approved. The consent agenda today. Would anyone like to remove anything from today's consent agenda for further discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Potter. Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Dahlheim for today's consent agenda. Is there any further discussion?
Well, I just wanted to
Commissioner
thank.
Potter?
I just wanted to thank Mike for not pulling anything this week.
Oh, yeah. We have a long discussion. So much for short meetings. But I think that was, the point of pulling that last week was the point that in item D, authorize attendance at key navigation land use plan. Is this extended also to P and Z, not just us?
Well, actually, this was put on there for me because I wanted to go to it after the discussions we had last week. So I thought I'd go to it. So I've already been signed up.
Is this something that P and Z should be eligible to go to if they want to?
Well, I agree.
They could do that on their own.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Potter?
up at the podium.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, that would be something that would be within their approved budget that they could go to. Same with our office. I've gone to that in the past. It's pretty good training. But
Yeah, it looks great.
A lot of it's duplicated of what I've seen in the last 5 years, so I'll be skipping this year, unfortunately, Commissioner Dahlheim, but they do have a good lunch. MCIT does a good job.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's consent agenda is approved. Now we're at the 9:02, and Mr. Chrysler is already up there, ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Michelle. If it works, we'll see. The county board today at 8:30 had a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D, subdivision 3C1 and subdivision C3, dealing with the purchase price of land on CD10. We met in this proceeding actually as pursuant to your authority as the drainage authority for County Ditch 10. We're just looking at the purchase of real property, specifically what we refer to as the CD10 holding pond in sections 17 and 18 of Township 118 and Range 27. These two parcels are along CD10, and we're looking at doing land acquisition and easement for easement holding ponds, temporary damages, an access easement, and then buffer strips. Total purchase price over both of the parcels, we've negotiated $94,650, and the breakdown between the two property owners is on the sheet. At this point in time, because the bids are still out on the proposed construction of this, they're going to be coming in on Friday. Staff is recommending that you hold off on actually formally accepting the purchase agreement until we know for sure that the bids are a go and that the project is going to go forward. So at this point in time, staff would request a tabling till October 1.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to table this item until October 1st.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden to table this item to October 1st. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Chief Treichler, he's here with a adopt a resolution to the 2020 Towards Zero Death Grant.
Yeah, it's an annual grant that we've applied for and received again from the Department of Public Safety. Dedicated funds used for Towards Zero deaths include seatbelts, speed, distracted driving, move over law. We apply for this grant every year. I want to say this is the last 5-6 years of us receiving this grant for dedicated enforcement in that area.
Thank you.
Chair, I'll make a motion adopting that resolution.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden to adopt the 2020 Towards Zero Death Grant. This is a resolution. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt, Friday I was at 7W meeting and we had a presentation on Towards Zero Death. And it was a good 20 minutes long. It was kind of the history and details of it. One of the almost borderline disturbing thing that's coming up is now we have these cars with the lane departure and anti-thing. They're starting to see people not paying attention as much anymore.
Correct.
And that's going to be concerning here because we're towards zero death. We know we'll never hit zero, but we're going to try to keep going there. But some of these things are, as technology keeps growing, sometimes it makes us less focused on what we're doing here. So I think part of this education has to be, just because your car has lane departure ability doesn't mean you don't have to pay attention anymore.
You're exactly right, Commissioner. So, distracted driving is more than just, your cell phone and knowing add the hands-free law in your radio, but it's anything within your vehicle that can distract you from your job one, which is watching the road, maintaining your vehicle safety.
You mean like smoking?
And Mr. Chair, too, with the vehicles now, I mean, your button gets turned off, and so you're relying on it beeping if there's a car approaching if you want to change lanes, you've got your turn signal on, and you're used to having it beep. Well, if it doesn't beep because your button gets accidentally turned off, then people really need to continue to be, very defensive in driving, more so now than ever, I believe.
That was part of the discussion with the lane departure and everything else. Is that some of these little fancy gadgets are making people pay less attention.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Work great until they don't.
Exactly.
See, my 1936 Plymouth doesn't even have the radio. So,
Really?
I mean, I don't have any distractions.
So you have no distractions. That's great.
Thank you. It's a resolution. I'll start it off. Aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Matt.
All right. Auditor Treasurer, Mr. Bob Hevola, adopting the resolution setting the preliminary 2020 budget and levy.
Hey, good morning, Board. In your package should be the resolution, just calling out that it is a little bit different format in the fact that we're presenting the approved budget from 19 to reflecting the amended budget that you guys have done over the course of the year to the 2020 proposed budget. So The proposed operating budget for the county is $160,949,532, requiring a levy of $78,587,512, which is a 6.7% increase in levy over the amended budget.
Mr. Chair, Bob, without the Lake Improvement District monies in there, then it's a lower number, like.
0.4 or something, wasn't it?
I thought it was like 6.7 something,
Or
but.
is it, or?
Oh, I shouldn't ask those questions on the fly, but.
Well, I've
It was, I seen it in an email.
Maybe it was at 0.4. Here, it's not significant, but it lowers it slightly.
Yeah, it does lower it a little bit. It was on the
Maybe it
email that
was
was sent
6
to
point,
us.
yeah, maybe it was 6.67 or something.
But
like that.
Mr.
Anyways,
Chair,
Yeah, it
Yep.
ends up being 6.7.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
6.7.
We should all take great pride in the fact that it's not last year's number. You know, that was, that anomaly that you just don't want to go revisit again. And this one is more reflective of just factoring in the growth within the county.
Correct. We made the correction last year, and we can move forward with more reasonable numbers in the future.
Mr. Chair, if I can add, again, we're adding that strategic forecasting models to this to help avoid that, but we knew that was going to happen, so it's not like
We
you guys
did.
did something wrong. We knew a correction was going to happen, and
Yeah.
it happened last year.
Well, it was in the works for quite a few years, but just blew up then.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dowling.
Yeah, I want to thank all the department heads because they did work with us.
They did.
In trying to get this levy down to something reasonable so that, as Commissioner Potter stated, that it will be covered by just the growth in the county. So
Correct.
as long as your house didn't have an increase in value, you really shouldn't see much of a change in the county property tax.
And that was the other thing that happened last year, too, because a lot of people had rather significant increases in their values. So there were some things that got thrown in besides the levy going up
And Mr. Chair,
significantly.
the other one not to forget is classification
And-
changes, because
Exactly.
that
Some-
changes everything.
That's set by the state, and we need to abide by that.
Commissioners, if I can remind you, we do have a video, 14 reasons why your tax was changed one year to the other. Our levy is one of those reasons. There are other reasons.
Is that on the county website?
It used to be.
I think it's still out on the auditor's financial, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe we should bring that up to the front page of the county website, since this is that time of year.
Yeah.
Just for
And
discussion,
tout our adoption of resolution as number 3 or something like that.
yeah.
Yep.
Or did Ryan come up with a number?
Yeah, 6.52. 6.52.
So split the difference between two of us.
So actually, because the lids, the Lake Improvement District numbers are money in, money out, so it's not really an impact of our levy.
It's the
per se,
impact
or-
for those that are on the lid. It has
They're-
nothing to do with
right.
the majority of the
Exactly,
county.
so for those in the lids, then their numbers are slightly.
6.7, yep.
Yep,
So
6.89.
then, Mr. Chair, every year we discover something, then it adds to the list, the 15 reasons why your taxes go up
There you
next
go.
year.
Or, yeah.
Well, he said 6.7.
6 point,
But,
Well,
but if
well,
you
We're at
were-
6.7 right now.
6.7, okay.
And
that's the
again,
a- that's the average though, Mark. If you were in a lake improvement district that just got added on, it's gonna go up way more than 6.7.
But depends on how much they ask for and what lid you're
yeah.
in. There's, some variables
I
to
mean,
that.
some of them were asking for $150, $200. That's sizable percentage for them.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the budget, the levy,
Set the
I'll
preliminary
second that.
preliminary levy
I'll
of
second.
$78,452.98. Oh, excuse me, $78,587.512.
I'll second that.
And you have a second by Commissioner Burrell. We have a motion by Commissioner Dowling and a second by Commissioner Burrell.
Okay.
I do also want to say this is a great step forward to levy stabilization and getting some more predictability. I do believe that we went through this budget process without trying to create a bottleneck for years to come, which is kind of what put us to what happened last year, was that kind of bottlenecking. So going forward here, if we continue with this methodology as a board, and if staff keeps working with us like this, it should be hopefully predictable.
I believe
I
this is a
agree.
resolution.
This is a resolution, yes. And I will start off with Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Yeah, that's one more aye than you got last year.
All right, Mr. Virgil Hawkins is up here to authorize signatures on a software license, hardware purchase, and hosting service agreement with Asset Works LLC.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman Vetch and Board of Commissioners. I have one item today for your consideration, and this is a culmination of about a years-long process of different demos and committee meetings, and we've arrived at a solution that looks like it'll work for us long-term and benefit a lot of departments in the county. Asset Works, so I'm seeking authorization for signatures on the agreement and hosting services agreement.
I'll make a motion to authorize signatures on the software license, hardware purchase, and hosting service agreement with Asset Works LLC.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dodd and second by Commissioner Potter. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for, this was a lot of work to get here. These programs are nice because if you start seeing, if you buy a vehicle or something and it turns out to be a dog, you can identify it a little quicker and get rid of it instead of tearing money into it. I mean, I had that conversation before when we first started getting those Tauruses for the sheriff's department. And are we tracking those? Well, kind of, sort of, you know, because that other program wasn't quite doing it. And we did find out that the horses were not holding up, and I'd like that for even trucks or anything else, that if we're seeing one particular model, maybe just one particular vehicle, we can cycle that through the program, get it out of there quick before it costs us a lot of money.
And Mr. Chair, nothing on this item, but I just wondered if Virgil could stay after just 1 second. I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dodd.
Yeah, this program is going to help the highway department, but it's also going to help sheriff's office and
Fleet maintenance.
our fleet all the way around. And it's a nice system, and the highway department did their due diligence in making sure that it was going to work well for everybody.
Thank you.
And Virgil, I hope you get to rally enough IT staff to get this done. I know it was our big discussion point of whether we can get this done in the sooner rather than later column, at least from the bare necessities on your part to operate on their side. I think there's a lot of the bells and whistles to the program that might be a little bit further down the road, but.
Correct, yeah, and I'm confident we can get it up and running soon.
Perfect. Well, with that, we have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Purchase
Mr. Chair, could
approved.
I ask Virgil a question?
Yes.
Just on 35, that they ground up all the surface. It wasn't just an overlay,
Right, we're reclaiming the old,
Reclaiming.
reclaiming it and then
Gravel
putting a
and
new
bituminous.
surface on. And when you did that, I always thought we let the road get a little more wore down. 35, I didn't think was in that bad a shape yet. And it
are you
was.
kidding?
It was pretty.
No.
From that 35 that we're doing right now, west of Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in tough shape.
Really?
It wasn't
I
pretty.
drive it. I must be.
You must have drove the part
Well,
where we
you
raised the
just come
grade
up
and
west,
then
right?
where it
Well,
was
I'm
real
used to the gravel roads maybe or something then, but I
I-
didn't think it was bad.
West of 7 where we
Right.
raised the grade was really nice.
That was-
We're not redoing that part.
Right.
Because we raised the grade for flooding and
I
that part
thought
was
we'd
nice.
wait until chunks are popping out of the road and
There
stuff.
were.
You don't want to wait that
They
long.
were?
But, Mr. Chair, and Virgil, I appreciate that because before you did that, Wolf Swamp stretch has been the nicest stretch of that road for, since you did it, and the rest of it was getting pretty rough, but, yeah. So I appreciate that, getting in
Bob,
and
do
taking
you agree
care
with
of
that too?
I drive that road every morning, so yes,
Yep.
thank you for doing that.
it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I thought we could have taken that a couple more years.
It was pretty rough in places, for sure.
I can send you some
Okay.
photos.
Charlie?
How bad it was.
Charlie, if you would have drove your pickup on it instead of your Cadillac, you would have noticed it a lot more. But with that Cadillac, it's
Just
just.
smooths everything
Yeah,
out.
There-
so you don't feel the bumps.
Thank you, Virgil.
Mr. Mattice is up. I know, we're never going to make it up.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Had our, whatever month this, September Park Commission meeting couple weeks ago, in there's a couple recommendations. The first one is, we've talked about here before, was redoing our ordinance to allow alcohol at reservable facilities. That's went through the attorney's office, went through Park Commission, came here with some recommendations back. So according to Attorney Kreiser, we can or cannot have a public hearing on changing our ordinance for that option. So basically, the new ordinance would allow malt beverages and wine, as defined under a Minnesota statute, not in a glass container, to be possessed and consumed at reserved facilities and in designated and permitted campsites. And the other one is intoxicating liquor. There's a Minnesota statute for that too. May be possessed and consumed in reserved facilities if distributed by a person with a caterer's permit. That's the change that you guys wanted. This ordinance would go into effect as soon as you approve it. Probably update our ordinance signs, update the ordinance on the, whatever, what do you call it? Codifying. We'll codify it. And then we'll probably have it going in next year. The second ordinance change was we met with the Park Ranger Division of the Sheriff's Department and Brian Johnson. And for overall enforcement of park hours, they'd like to go from 6 a.m. to 10. Right now we do 6 a.m. to sunset. I guess most people don't understand that sunset is when the sun sets below the horizon, not when it's dark. So it'd just be easier, especially in the wintertime when people get off work, it's dark at 5, they want to go cross-country skiing with their headlamps or something like that. So then the Park Commission will then look and review policies about reservations, about use of alcohol, you know, have internal policies for reservations. This is just the ordinance section of that.
So, and I'm glad we did that, Mark, with as far as with the
like
alcohol.
booze?
I mean, it was being routinely violated and it made people criminals, and they're just having a beer by the campfire. And I, you know, if somebody's causing trouble, they'll deal with it and take care of it. But I think it makes people a lot more enjoyable, I think, experience.
I'm in favor of actually putting times in, because I hate the word dusk. Well, what does
Yeah.
dusk mean? I tell you, dusk to you means dusk different to me, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a while after sunset for it to actually get dark.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the biggest thing is that this will help the park rangers.
yes, you have specific times.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
specific times, and what we'll do, the Park Commission will probably recommend that we have, like, during the summer months with our beaches and stuff, that the facilities are open a set hour. So the restroom facilities, we're not gonna pay somebody to sit there when it gets dark at 8 o'clock this time of year till 10 to keep a bathroom open. So we'll probably sign that up and have, these facilities are open these times and stuff like that.
Mark, can we do these all in one motion, or does it have to be two?
Well, I don't know, that's an attorney question there.
We'll find out.
We got one?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, the item before the board today is, I guess, how do you want to adopt this? Do you want a public hearing on it, or do you just want to have a regular board meeting on it? We have not.
I thought
published
we'd
notice-
just vote today.
We have not published notice of intent yet, because I didn't know if you wanted a public hearing.
I don't think we need it.
So really, it's going forward, do you want a public hearing on this or not?
Do we need to have a public hearing on it?
Not under the law need to have a public hearing. It's only for planning and
I don't
zoning.
see
I
this as
see no
being very
reason to.
controversial. I think this is actually more in favor of the
Right.
public. If it was more of a restrictive one, but we're actually
Right.
offering them,
We're loosening.
we're loosening, so.
Exactly.
I would recommend then referring this for consideration to the second meeting in October.
For the possession and use of alcohol.
So it'd be the third then, because the second one we don't
It'd be
need.
the
It'd be the third, 15th.
The 15th. Table this to October 15th.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion then to table this till the 15th.
You're talking about the alcohol.
Right,
Ordinance amendment to the,
Hours too, right?
It'd be
And the
our
hour.
ordinance amendment 19-3.
for both of them. So,
19-3.
okay.
Everything would be referred.
So it'd be
Yep.
both of my motion.
Oh, okay.
I'll second that.
all right, motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewsome, to table the ordinance amendment for the hours and alcoholic beverages at the county parks. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Technically, we're doing the same thing as we did with you guys are doing with the tobacco ordinance. You heard it and then you came back here today with that. So, second order of business, during our budget hearings, you asked us to look, you talked about raising revenues and you talked mainly about campground fees and brought that back to the Park Commission, and they're recommending kind of a different thought process with that. They are looking at raising campground fees, but they looked at their entire fee structure. And knowing that the revenue dollar amount that you wanted to raise our revenue line up, they worked within that and are recommending to you to refer to the fee schedule hearing, whenever that shall be, Mr. Kelly.
Yep.
The attached fee structure to the minutes. So it is raising the campground fees, it's raising some shelter fees, and it is hitting your estimated revenue line that you like to see.
But Mark, one of the things that I mean, it was important to me is that we weren't going to raise the Wright County, the resident fee very much. It was just
We did not raise it very much.
okay,
Like
and they're not recommending, they're recommending similar things then?
They're recommending similar things, but with increasing some shelters, we haven't increased shelters for 10 years. Increasing some shelters, increasing group camps, they're not going quite as high as you guys mentioned on the camping fees, because it puts us over the market, kind of, where other people are.
They're packed,
Yeah,
right?
but,
I don't know.
oh.
Well, we'll talk about it then,
I think they're
guess.
doing I think they did a very good job looking at this fee schedule and providing you what you wanted as far as additional revenue and keeping us within a competitive market.
My whole point on this is the Wright County taxpayers are paying for a lot of the parks thing, and we have people from out, and they're filled up. And then we have people that are coming from outside of Wright County that aren't paying Wright County taxes, that are not paying very much more on their.
We're supplementing their
Yeah, we're
camping.
subsidizing people from out of the county. And now, that's nice, I mean, I like to have people from out of the county come in here because they do spend and they do business at our county businesses too, so it's kind of a catch-22, but
There is a $3 difference per day.
$3 difference? Yeah.
I'd rather see the county residents get a bigger discount than that. I mean, in my side, I mean, if it was mine, it would be a $10 difference at least, you know?
Yeah.
but, you know.
Well, you know, I don't know, do we keep track of reservations on where they're coming from? And if I remember correctly, the majority of them were from Wright County.
From our Wright County,
Majority.
especially at Schroeder Park. Collinwood's a little different because it's way down in the corner, but we get majority from Wright County.
Well, we'll talk about it when we do the fee structure, right?
Sure. If you recommend the fee schedule to the fee structure hearing.
Well,
Because this is what this would go to the public hearing notice for the fee schedule.
I don't know. I want to, I'm with Derek on this, I want a bigger difference. If we can't have $5 difference between somebody from out of the county to within the county, I mean, that's minimal. I wouldn't mind a $10 one.
Well,
but
because
that's-
I mean, I'm with you, Commissioner Brill. I mean, my tax dollars paid for this infrastructure, not theirs. So
But we are about the only county that actually has in camping fees that difference.
Really?
then we're right and they're wrong.
You know,
But I
I see it with
wouldn't-
a lot of community centers.
it wouldn't offend me at all if I went to some other county and it was $25 for in-county and 30 for out, you know, whatever.
If you don't like it, move to the right county then, you know?
So, I don't know.
This is just a recommendation from your
Mr. Chair.
park commission.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the board, remember that we did instruct Mark and the park board to increase revenues on this to more match that, the market, and the fact that if you don't raise it for a whole bunch of years, then you raise it, it's a problem. As a resort owner, I know this, you're better to incrementally rise it a little bit here and there instead of waiting 5-6 years and then just jack it up real high. You're better off doing it this way, and maybe this isn't quite perfect, but you've got your directions, Mark, for the next one coming around for fee schedules. And I agree with them, you should have a little bit more, but this is what the Park Commission came up with. And I don't have a problem with it because it is moving in the right direction. Maybe we just got to move it a little bit more next time we adjust these fees.
This time they did adjust it, so they raised non-resident a little higher than it was before the separation. So you're at that $3. Before it was $2.50.
Because it was, what are we at, 27.30?
$27.50 and $30.
So $2.50 difference between
There
resident.
is currently another
Per
$3
day.
difference.
Per day, yeah.
I mean, they're getting there.
So we should make a discount and we'll go backwards on the county one and we'll go upward.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
Well, I would say, if you want to have this discussion about what it actually is for out-of-county residency, I suggest that we have some actual numbers.
Well, I'd like to see the data as to how many are residents versus non-residents and kind of
But that
extrapolate
really-
those numbers into what the fee schedule should look like and what it would look like from a revenue generation.
Couldn't we do this? I just want to, I'll make a motion that we approve the, bill except for the resident and non-resident things, we lower the resident down $1 and raise the non-resident $1 on each of the 3 items.
So you're gonna go with 33, 28?
Yeah. Yep, so the first one would be 33 and 28, 22 and 18, and 36 and 31.
It's
So that
it's
way
better
it's-
than where it's at. I mean, it's in the right direction,
It
because,
only changes at $1 for somebody outstate, and it gives a resident an extra $1 discount.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Dodd.
and I know.
Oh, I had a motion.
I
That
know.
was a motion, so I gotta wait for a second, I guess.
I don't know if is this the place to kind of set these rates now?
We have to,
Well,
we have to, otherwise I'm gonna pass the gavel so I can second it.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Now we can have discussion.
Mr. Chair, by changing the Wright County resident lower, you're going to have an impact on the budget.
Yes, we are.
Major.
That could be.
So I'd say at this point, until you have the numbers, I would highly recommend letting this go forward at the current rate. I mean, the Park Commission, we worked hard on it. Mark ran numbers, you know. So I think without knowing the impact, I think it's not a very good thing to do.
Okay, Mark, that's a good point. How about then if we just raise the out-of-state $1? I'll have to withdraw my motion if that's okay with Commissioner Houston.
But, my question is, Commissioner Burrell, I just want to make sure that the Parks Commission, I believe you with the due diligence of the amount of funds that we've used from county dollars to bolster these parks. And that is, I want to make sure that it's conveyed to them that this is, the taxpayers are fitting this infrastructure. And so I want them to make sure that they're very cognizant with that when they're setting these fee schedules.
And I don't think they were with $3 difference.
And that's kind of my thoughts as well.
So has the motion been?
But it is all right if I withdraw
We
my
have a
motion?
motion, second.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to withdraw my motion, and Commissioner Houston will withdraw the second for that.
Yep, okay, so the motion's withdrawn, so we're now,
But I still, Mark, okay, I'll ask a question before I do my next motion, maybe it will make more sense, but would it be out of, because that was a good point Commissioner Dodd made, because if we have 90% of them from in-county, it will affect the budget. Let's say we leave that the same and raise the out-of-county $1.
That's going to have an impact upwards.
Yeah, it ain't gonna go
Not
down that way,
adjusting.
right?
no.
And it's a little bit better deal for whatever,
Well, we just generates more revenue than what we were budgeting.
and it's from out-of-county.
Out of state,
Okay,
out of county
Mr. Chair,
people.
I'm going to make that motion then to use all the same numbers here today, excuse me, except for the non-resident, the first 3 items, raise it $1.
So 33 and 22,
33, 22, and 36.
I'll
36.
second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Any discussion? There's no discussion?
I do have a comment.
Yes.
That's not a
No,
discussion.
yeah, absolutely.
I just look at that 22 for a non-electrical tent site, and that is kind of high. I'd say go ahead and do your 33 and 29 for electrical sites, your 36 and 32 for full-service sites,
But leave the campers.
and leave the tent campers or go down, or go down on them a little bit. I mean,
Why didn't you
don't
say that before I made my motion?
You didn't ask me. And then you motioned, and then you can't comment until it's here.
Take a second, now I open up the comments, yes.
I just think 22 is a ridiculous price for somebody to pitch a tent on a piece of grass.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion to,
I'm almost to the point, at some point here, this really should have just got referred to a committee of the whole or a workshop, so we could have actually worked through this with some
Right.
we
detail.
probably should have done that before it came here.
I think so, absolutely,
Well,
because
you
this
kinda
is,
did, because of the
We
park
did.
commission is a.
We did, but now we're
did.
changing things, yeah.
Do you think it would actually affect, people would say they would not come in for an extra $1?
I wouldn't. I mean, that's 22 just,
And you know what,
Well,
Mark,
Mark,
I'm
well,
going to
you can do what you
disagree,
want.
because
You're a county
for
board.
$20 to go out and camp for a resident, then the $20 or 19 isn't going to make a difference, and if a person from out of the
I just leave
county,
the tent camping. We got basically at Collinwood Park is our only tent camping that we charge for, and it's 10 sites. Not going to impact your revenue one way or the other.
no, so it's not going to matter.
No.
So we might as well leave it then.
That's my,
I mean, the way I,
19.
leave it with my motion,
leave it with your motion, and at the fee schedule, if you want to change it, you can.
okay?
All right,
All right,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
vote on
true.
it.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I would suggest then at, when we do that fee, find out what's happening at Bunker Hills Regional Park, because they have quite a few tent
I got all that
sites there.
information. I was
Yeah.
shared that with you at budget time.
And if I remember correctly,
I got
it was less than that, and that's a nice park there too.
Yeah, it's a lot better, yeah. It's got a water park,
Yep. So, I mean,
horseshoe-back rides.
we don't want to be horseback ride?
Horseback
Hay
ride.
burner? So, I mean, we don't want to
Golf course.
be higher than them either, which is what the, the park commission looked at all that sort of stuff.
And I agree with that, I don't want to go too high on the prices, but I mean, my side of it is, if we're going to adjust prices, I want it to be on the non-resident side, not so much on the resident side. I want to be capping our resident side and having to adjust the non-resident side, because our residents have already paid their fees for these parks,
Correct.
and they should be able to reap the rewards.
It's $1.
It's $1.
Okay.
Dollar a night.
$1 a night. Could be $3 for,
So we have a motion and we have a second, so that's still original motion and second stands. Is there any further discussion? I hear none. All right, all in favor, say aye.
all right.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you.
And we can adjust this at the fee schedule thing if Mark convinces us differently, right?
Yeah. You can go down, you just can't go up, right? Would that be a Greg question?
Do whatever you want.
Okay. I don't know, I'm looking for the attorney there, he's kind of, you're good, okay. I just, okay with that then, all right. Now we're up to items for consideration. We had the Owners Committee of the Whole on 9/18. It was a very nice walkthrough of the Justice Center. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Potter to walk us through that wonderful gathering.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Justice Center Owners Committee of the Whole met September 18th. All commissioners were present except for one. I'm just kidding.
Harsh.
What? Anyway, we just started going through some of the background to bring the rest of them up to, because rest of the commissioners up to speed. They've been sitting in for me at different times, and Charlie, to give them a little flavor of what's going on here. Part of it was had to do with the updates in the short-term schedule. Mitch Paulson went through and spoke about the schedule and progress on the site, the exterior, some of the finishes on the bench, different things. Newest site work is on the grading on the northwest area of the site. That as people were out there that saw that there was plenty of dirt being moved. That black dirt hill is half to 3/4 got removed right now. A lot of action going on there as far as the dirt work goes, and they're working on the northwest parking area. They have to get that ready for the Justice Center's opening next year, getting some of those elevations where they need to be. And on the south side of the building there, the metal panels were being put in. It's starting to take shape really well now that this get in there, and you get that 3D perspective that was kind of missing before the panels went in there. And then work across the west face, and then the cast stone materials will be starting by the entry, and perimeter walls they'll be starting pretty quick here. Level 0, that was the lower level. The secured block area has been completed. That was the change from the last time I was out there, that was kind of wide open. Now it's pretty distinct what's going on there now. And then the plumbing rough-ins there. Mass calendar room, the wood ceiling, the judge backdrop continues to be installed. And each one of these courtrooms has to be climate controlled, because the material going in there needs to acclimate to that and have it controlled when they install it so it doesn't curl and crack and everything else, like a couple other counties had that issue by not following that correctly. And on the level 2, they're still working on sheetrock taping, painting. Ceilings are being framed, quite a few of the frames, and it's anybody who has been out there and then skipped a month and come back is just amazed at how much things are getting done. It's progressing fairly quickly here. The data cabling is being pulled, the workstation throughout, and it's been going on for a while, but it's when you start seeing cables and wires hanging here and there, you know it's getting closer to where it's at. And the east side of the facility has been, some paint's been put in, and it's like judges' chambers and that, and they walked through and they thought it was looking pretty good. The picking of the colors will go with all the decor in there, that they're happy with that. And they talk about the long-term schedule, and we're a little bit behind, what do we say, 6 weeks? Ish,
Yeah.
right in every time. But we can make up some of that going forward here. So we're anticipating the paving will not occur this year, 2019, we talked about before. Best to wait it for 2020 to have it in the spring, because it started getting late here. And the delay was because we didn't make the decision on the admin center building until later, so that kind of skewed the schedule a little bit. But it's probably the best thing is have that material sit there, packed in, over freeze-thaw cycle, and do it in the spring. Would probably be a better product that way, in personal opinion, of being there. And the weather, when it develops one time for move-in, will probably be second quarter, third quarter at the latest next year. And I know that the judges had the issue with when they do their calendar, how it works out, but they just have to work around this. And the idea was to move them all in once versus piecemeal. I mean, there's discussion a little bit on how we do this, how we go forward with this. And then some of the change orders that came in there is up there, and I would like Alan Wilczek to come up and explain that, so the public, when they see this, they don't just see a PR 74, what does that mean? I'd rather have it explained by our Director of Facilities and Grounds.
Morning, Board. With regards to the minutes and change orders, speaking to 44 and 46, there are changes to the flooring in the IDF rooms, which are the data riser closets, changing those to static dissipated flooring so that when you enter those, it takes the static out of your body, basically. So when you touch the switches and touch the equipment, it doesn't create electrical shock or a static shock, I guess. So that's a change order of the project, a request and decision with IT. The 74 and 74R electrical changes, that is related to some security changes due to movement of cameras. The design originally just had placeholders in for cameras. As we bring on Allstate and design our camera system with an actual contractor, decided on placements. There's a few cameras that had to move related to that, which creates changes to the boxes and the conduit pulls for cabling and power. On 77R3, that is related to fireproofing exposed ceilings. As you walk through the building, you see all the sprayed, it looks like a sprayed insulation almost, but it's fireproofing on all the metal material. On top of the elevator shafts, there is no ceiling in there, it's just the exposed ceiling. The elevator inspector is not requiring it, however, he's highly recommending, due to the dust particulates that get into the elevator rollers and the wheels and the electronic controls, to spray and encapsulate that ceiling material so that it doesn't create those dust particles as the elevator shaft goes up, or the elevator cab goes up and down. So we are seeing that as a recommendation. We looked at doing the tops of the stairwells as well and encapsulating, but I made a decision to save the money on that and not encapsulate the ceiling of the stairwells, so they will be just exposed as you see them now, which will be fine. It's not a big deal. On 78, the generator gear revisions, that's one of the bigger ones at $136,000. That is related to tying in the generator to all three facilities, the Law Enforcement Center, jail, the Justice Center, and the Government Center. There's new gear that needs to get mounted on the side of the existing generator, which will control the output of the generator. So if one of the three buildings goes down, the generator just serves the one that's out, as well as creates an opportunity to put ports on the side of the generator so that in the event we lose power to the site, the generator kicks in, something happened to the generator, a cylinder goes out, a piece of the gear, something went out on that generator, there's no opportunity currently to connect anything portable. This would create some power jacks so that we could, being as it's a jail, it's fairly important to have power there. Bring in an exterior, a truck, a portable truck, and plug it into the system and run that separately as an independent item. So that piece of 136,000 is for all the gear and all the controls to run all three buildings off that one generator. I'll just note that there's a significant cost savings to adding a generator to each of the other buildings. The generator that is installed currently is large enough for the entire site to run 100% service on all the buildings. So it's a really good feature to have there, and it'll all be tied together on one system.
It was a very good purchase way back.
Thank you, Alan.
The next item on there was the recommendation for the securities. I don't know how in-depth you want me to go through that.
You could just give a quick executive summary on what we're doing and why.
So essentially what we're doing is we're changing the camera and card access system from what we currently have in the building now to the new facilities. We went through a process of demoing those with IT and our staff and went through a lot of the benefit and cost analysis of what we're using now. We're seeing some issues with programming and ability to operate, pulling video, tracking, just functionality. There's a lot of benefits to go into a new system. So the proposals that I included the cost on that we walked through is for all the cameras in the Justice Center, all the cameras on the exterior parking lot, the camera retrofit inside the jail, the card access controls in the Justice Center, card access controls in the Law Enforcement Center and jail. The reason those have to be changed, if we change the system in the Justice Center, they should be compatible with the Law Enforcement Center. However, currently the system is a carry system, which is proprietary basically to our system alone. It can't be integrated into anybody else's system or any other framework of a system. So we are changing all of them. The new government center will be the same systems, obviously, when we integrate those. But basically, this will take care of that whole site. So the Sheriff Support Building, the Law Enforcement Center, the Justice Center, and the Government Center. For those people, just to note, so you're all understanding, that need access to the card access secure areas of the Justice Center and Law Enforcement Center, but also maybe office here for time being, they're going to have to carry 2 cards for a short period until they move to the new Government Center. But it's been a long process of working through this for, I'll just say, probably 6 or 7 months now. We've been working on this thing, and
I
finally got to the point where it's ready to go.
For work on this, so that was a big hill to climb.
There's so many details like that. It take a long time.
So, okay, thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Continuing on with that is for the board and the public to understand, the jail facility is now 10 years old. It's hard to believe how time flies. It's now 10 years old, and some of the things are getting to that point where you need to replace them. And like with the security and the cameras and some of the, we decided to say, when we're doing the justice, let's just upgrade them now so they all match, which makes sense. Fortunate there was enough money and contingency to do this. We're going to have to do it anyway. Let's just do it and make it all compatible now so that people get trained. It's all one time. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter to approve the minutes and the recommendations.
that.
Second by Commissioner Hewsome. Is there any other discussion? I will just say that I'm hoping we'll get a dry spring and we can hopefully make up some of that 6-week delay. That's the, I don't want to be overly dry, but drier, not like record rainfalls. All right, with that, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes and recommendations are approved. Now we have the September 17th Committee of the Whole. Commissioner Hewsome, if you want to walk us through that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Committee of the Whole met on September 17th, 2019 to discuss it was actually a public hearing for proposed ordinance amendment 19.5 for revisions to the tobacco ordinance, increasing the purchase to age 21. Members present, all 5 commissioners, Administrator Kelly, also members from Health and Human Services, the public, and our county attorney's office and our court services. And Board Chair Vetch opened the meeting and explained the guidelines. And also we reviewed letters sent prior to the public hearing. He also invited members to bring forward any comments, and none were submitted. And there was also cards submitted in support of the ordinance and email comments from the public received prior to the meeting, and they were attached to these minutes. Greg Kreiser, Assistant County Attorney, gave a brief overview of the ordinance and distributed the amendments that were proposed by staff. He also provided a document that combined the two documents to show the changes. Kreiser explained to those present that the board would take public comments and then discuss whether to move forward with the ordinance amendment. And then, if recommended, it would be adopted at a regular board meeting. And he went through the proposed changes, and a couple of things that came out of that were retail establishments that sell tobacco-related products do not have to be 21 years old, and it only affects people who buy the products. So if someone is currently 18, they're not going to be allowed to purchase the tobacco products, but they would not be fined for possessing. And Kreiser also says state law requires that the county conduct compliance checks annually, and utilizing someone between the ages of 15 and 18. So now the ordinance added the line to allow county to do a second compliance check for persons between 18 and 21. Kreiser said the civil penalties would increase for all the first, second, third violations. And then the public hearing commenced at 1:13. So there was two people that spoke against the new amendment, and Krista Zoller, who is a district manager for Holiday, she manages a store in Otsego as well as Rogers and Elk River, and Rogers and Elk River had turned down the ordinance amendment, but she thought that if staff is moving between the three stores, there might be some confusion between the 18 and 21 ages. And Patrick McNabb works for a vaping shop, and he said that there's really no incentive to buy from local stores if this changes, and he said that so many are buying products over the internet. Then the people that spoke in favor of this change, Pete Stadifer is a school resource officer with Annandale School District, a sergeant with the Annandale PD, and he said it's a daily battle with students using e-cigarettes, and their district is testing technology to detect vaping in the restrooms. And he said that day the alarm went off 16 times since 8 in the morning. It goes off every day, and majority of adults use 5 to 7 milligrams of nicotine per day, but kids are using products that have 40 to 60 milligrams, so they get addicted much faster. Janet Netterfield is a registered nurse. She said her daughter was first exposed by another 10th grader who got the device from her 18-year-old sister, and fortunately did not continue vaping. But that's one of the things that happens is the younger kids get the products from older kids. Mona Bolden, who's a registered nurse, says they see firsthand negative impact of tobacco use on the health of Minnesotans. Plus, it costs Minnesotans more than $3 billion annually in excess health care costs for smoking. And a study said that raising the age to 21 would prevent at least 30,000 youth from smoking over the next 15 years. Anne Marie Foucault, supervisor of St. Michael Albertville School District, said that...
Superintendent.
What did I say?
Supervisor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Superintendent said that the problem has reached crisis mode, and they've conducted parent and student education, and she urged the board to be strong advocates for kids and pass the ordinance. Melissa Pribble from Community Health and Awareness at CentraCare said that she's has sent a number of attached emails in support of this, and the ordinance would reduce youth access and addiction. Attorney Tom Kelly, county attorney, said he supports any measure that makes it harder for kids to get tobacco and related electronic devices. So Commissioner Vetch asked for additional comments, and so there were none, and the public hearing was closed, so it was brought up to the board. Commissioner Delyden expressed support for the ordinance, but he is concerned about the stores that are in different state or different counties that don't have the ordinance and their penalties. Commissioner Burrell said the ordinance amendment isn't the answer and will not be effective, that he felt it should be initiated by the state. Potter fully supports the ordinance. Vetch said this is not a silver bullet, but we have to do something to increase barriers. I said that increasing tobacco to sales age to 21 would reduce use. And an article in Minnesota Medicine discussed the estimated reduction in the tobacco 21 policy. Without the policy, the number of youth start smoking was 7,200. With the policy, it was about 2,000 less. So, the number of youth who started smoking without tobacco 21 was 10,368. With tobacco 21, the number decreased to 8,813. So a lot of the problem too is with the pods that they use in their vaping, they might be getting the equivalent of 7 packs of cigarettes in one pod. So the consensus was to refer to the ordinance amendment 1958 to the next county board meeting. The meeting was adjourned at 1:47. With that, Mr. Chair, I will move the minutes and the recommendation.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Houston to approve the committee of the whole minutes from September 17th and the recommendations. And do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Potter. Any discussion?
I just want to ask Commissioner Houston, consensus, 4 out of 5 is still a consensus?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
3 out
Yeah,
of
3 out of 5.
3 to 5 would be a consensus.
I just thought that would be a majority. I wouldn't use, a consensus I would thought would be more encompassing, but.
Yeah, super majority is 4 out of 5, but consensus is 3 out of 5.
The majority.
Majority is 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Other discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Dodd.
I do have some concerns over some of this. Because I am a smoker, and somebody had mentioned that we can send 18-year-olds who are kids, or are they adults? Send them to war, can't drink, they can't smoke in our county, but they can go over to Elk River or Rogers. I'm just not sure. I kind of agree with Charlie's that this should really be state regulated if it's going to make a major change. And it's just, I don't know. You know, is an 18-year-old an adult or not? And if they can go to war, join the army, and have to do things, I don't know. I guess in a way, how many restrictions are we going to put on adults?
Well,
They
Mr.
can
Chair,
vote.
I think that this is really a grassroots effort, and I believe that, yes, it should be something that's nationwide. Really, vaping has become very epidemic, and the president's looked at this also. But at the same time, we're talking about the health of youth, and when they start younger, they are, you know, more likely to be addicted earlier. And when they took a survey of you know, adults who smoked, I think there was 75% that said, you know, they had started before they were before they were 21, and also that they supported this.
Ms. Chair, I just want to clarify, what we would be voting on now is just the minutes, right?
Just the minutes.
Because we have
We still have the
vote.
ordinance.
We still have the
on it
vote.
is-
Yeah, we have the minutes.
I'm
and
just wondering if we
The
should.
minutes was just the minutes and the recommendation. The
Right.
recommendation was to bring something forward to this meeting. We haven't actually adopted the
I'm
actual
just
ordinance.
wondering if we shouldn't just vote on the minutes, because then right after that,
Sure.
we'll have this
Okay.
discussion.
Yep.
So, all right.
I
any other
don't have any
dis-
problem with the minutes. I think, I'll add a little more to it in our next discussion, but
So, all right, so,
the minutes seem accurate.
any other discussion on the minutes?
Yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Okay, I've heard the story about you can die for your country at 18 and all this, and that's fine, Danny, but science has pretty much proved that the human brain does not fully develop till you're 24. I mean, it's just like the alcohol, when they used to be 18, you can die for your country, why can't you drink for your country? And they moved that to 21 because they saw the effects of it. Okay, tobacco and nicotine and that is the most addictive chemical there, more so than heroin or anything else out there. This is something we need to take the steps to try to protect it. And, maybe if you want to go that far, you don't let them fight for your country till they're 21. I kind of say that's different because a lot of times the 18 to 21-year-old males, and especially males, I'll just pick on them, sometimes need a little guidance in their life to get them on the straight, narrow path. The whole thing boils down to is we need to take steps to protect it. And yes, it should be a state thing, absolutely. They've bandied about this for a while, but until somebody at our level starts making you've got to take a stand one way or another, vote on it one way or another. They're not going to do nothing. They're just going to sit back and do, just let it die a natural death in committees. So that's why I support this. I think it's the right way to go. And after all the hubbub and the fever dies down, then they'll be off to something else.
Well, we have the minutes and the recommendations. We'll get that passed here. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes and recommendations are approved. Now, at this time, we actually have the ordinance
But I
before
would vote
us.
against what is the recommendation to just bring it to this thing?
Bring it to this
Okay,
meeting.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. The
So-
recommendation wasn't to pass it, it was just to bring it.
You have the ordinance amendment 19-5 before us right now with the modification of the tobacco sale age from 18 to 21 with other small tweaks to the ordinance that have been discussed at length. At this time, if there is or isn't interest in going forward, I'm looking for discussion here, looking for motions.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to move forward and adopt ordinance amendment number 19-5 with tobacco regulations.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome. We have a second by Commissioner Potter. Discussion.
Well, Mr. Chair, and this is the right place to have the discussion on this, by the way. I just say it is a state issue, it's not a county. We have Sherburne County that's not passing it, Hennepin County didn't pass it, right? Am I correct?
No, Hennepin County
Hennepin County passed
They
it.
did.
It's just the city of Rogers that didn't actually.
City of Rogers didn't,
In Rockford?
and we have counties down my way that aren't taking action on this.
Has the
So
county do it.
what that does, like Mr. McNabb testified, it's gonna drive them to the internet, which
already do.
if they're gonna go do it and do the internet, it's safer than driving from Waverly over to Rogers. I don't know how you guys were, but when my kids got in the car when they were 17, I was always a little nervous. Not that I'd want them to go driving for e-cigarettes or cigarettes anyway, but some kids are going to do that, and there's just more of a chance for somebody to get hurt or killed. The other thing is, my daughter smoked cigarettes when she was, I want to say 16. She was pretty much addicted to them, I think, already. And she used e-cigarettes to quit. And she's 24 years old now. She does not smoke anymore. Does not like smoking even. So I don't know. I think in a perfect world, yes. Commissioner Potter, I don't want cigarette smoking. I don't want e-cigarettes. I don't want any of this stuff. But it's out there, and I don't know. I just think it's not something that we need to be bringing up here at the county level. I really don't. If we're gonna do this and just say, send a message to the state, my God, we're gonna be doing a whole lot of stuff. I mean, we'll be doing transportation bills here and stuff, and passing them at a county resolution. I just don't think that's right. So anyway, I oppose it. Well, I wish people would not smoke. I'll work with Commissioner Delyden any way I can to get them to stop smoking too. Because I kind of like them, and I'd like them to stick around for a few years. So.
And for the public, Commissioner Delyden stepped out for a moment just to get fresh air.
Yeah, right.
The stress was getting to
The
me.
stress.
I just don't see this as effective. I brought it up at one of the meetings. You know, I said, well, if this is going to be effective, then we should make smoking marijuana cigarettes illegal for the people under 21. And, oh, it is already illegal. But anybody in middle school, and you guys are all out there, anybody in middle school that wants a marijuana cigarette by next week has it, you know? So it's just, I think it gets to be feel-good stuff, and if it makes you all feel good, we'll vote for it, I guess, and pass it on. But I just don't see it as being effective.
No, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I respect what Commissioner Burrell is saying, that, you know, good luck controlling people's behaviors at times. But we are entrusted to look out for the public safety and public good, and we need to make sure our children are protected from predators and things out there. Mostly, if you're a middle school kid, the only reason you're vaping is because you think that steam coming out of your mouth looks cool as all get up. And I get that part, but I just don't like what nefarious activities happen with that. Okay, you start vaping with your friends because you're looking cool, and then all of a sudden put some other vial in there and it's something else. And pretty soon, before you know it, that kid is down a different path. Those are things, and we are entrusted to take steps to try to protect our kids. And I agree with you, the state should be doing this, and hopefully enough counties are doing this now, the state will get the message loud and clear, deal with it. You know, 5-10 years ago, there was not a vaping issue, it's there now. And I feel bad for the schools. The vape detecting units are expensive, and you have to put it in every bathroom, then you have to have somebody dedicated to pay attention to it. And the school resource officer can't be running from bathroom to bathroom everywhere all the time. They knew out the things, and in the STMA's case, they don't have the committee of teachers that go around. And we need the teachers in the classroom teaching the kids. We don't need them in the bathrooms checking to see who vape, because, you know, yeah, they more than likely they're not going to catch them anyway, because they'll vape and gone, and you'll come there to, okay, who was just here? And then you have to go back through video tapes and see who walked in. I think it's just more expense on the school end than people should have to pay. I mean, we're paying enough for our school taxes. We need them to be able to educate our kids.
This ain't gonna stop that.
Oh, no.
True, but, Mr. Chair, I mean, I believe we need to take a stand. The schools are asking for this. They're watching kids go down, you know, and be taken off by ambulance because they don't know what's in those cartridges. And limiting access does limit people's, it does curb that. So if people are hell-bent on doing something, they will do that. But for a lot of people, they take note, and it's going to limit access.
But how does limiting access by saying you can't buy that in Wright County stop somebody from going on the internet and ordering it? It doesn't.
I
I just
said
don't think
people-
the access is limited.
Well, it's no different than alcohol. I mean,
Right.
the access is limited. I mean, it's still, who's to say that
No,
8-year-old can't get
It's completely
alcohol?
different for alcohol, because that's statewide.
Well, yeah, but
True.
So it's completely
That's the
different.
That's the difference right there.
Point of clarification, there's two ordinances in here in our packets. Ordinance Amendment number 19.5 and Ordinance Amendment 19.5A1.
That was in the minutes, Mr. Chair, but the ordinance, and maybe
That was being
Attorney
brought
Kreiser
forward
can-
was only one, right?
Attorney Kreiser
I
can,
think the minutes, the recommendation was to bring forward just one of them, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, and Commissioner Paul. The minutes were a recommendation to bring forth, staff recommended proposed amendment 19.5A1. So staff incorporated 19.5A1 into what is submitted onto the board now as 19.5. The amendment A1 was a delete and replace in its entirety. So everything that was in A1 is now incorporated into what you're
It's just the
discussing
one.
right now.
okay. I think interesting point is, if you guys, I don't know how many of you guys can think back when you were 18 years old, and most days you didn't really think that far about whether you were going to live or die for the next day. You lived for the moment. You didn't even really think about what you consumed, how late you slept, the things that you did. So you kind of live now, how many of you guys say to yourself, gosh, it's amazing I'm still alive today, or gosh, it's amazing I never was arrested? I never to some degree, and as an adult, and unfortunately, we're learning now that when we're 18 years old, we're still learning.
Yeah.
And it's the elders, the adults, those that are more senior than us, that have learned in life, that need to guide us. And we've kind of got to this pivoting point where, you know what, they need some more regulation on these people so they don't harm themselves. Because for what they don't know, or even if they do know, they're not caring about what their 30s and 40s are going to look like based on what they're doing right now.
There's a real disconnect until your brain's, matured, so.
But if, it gets back to it, if this actually worked and kept people from doing it, hey, I'm on board, but I just don't see it working. And then it gets to a point where, are we gonna do this with every single issue that comes up? Bring it at the county. It's not our issue. It is a state or a federal issue.
But you know what, Charlie? There is a good number of people that when something is illegal, they tend not to do it versus when it's legal. Sure. I don't know about you. I guess maybe I was a good kid. The law was the law, and that's what I followed. I didn't drink in high school, Charlie. I was that kid, and because the laws make things very clear. Had drinking been legal, that may be a different story. And that's the conversation that we're having with this. Is if it stems off even 20% of the people, it's a move in the right direction, because ultimately you agree. We don't want anybody smoking. We know it's not good for them. Let them get the chance to make a few more years to make a cognizant decision as to whether that was good for their health or bad for their health.
Okay, and you are right. But then there's another percentage of the people that do it just because it is illegal. Because you're not supposed to do it. It must be something good. I mean, I don't even like fish, but then it was illegal to steal them in the spring,
So you go poaching just because it's illegal?
With all due respect,
I'm just saying.
Burrell, I'm not sure that that's a very good argument, but.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll call the motion. If we're talking about
there are
fishing now.
statute of limitations, right?
I'll call the motion since we've gone off it.
You're calling the question, or what are you doing?
Yeah,
On the question?
Whatever.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheim to call the question.
I'll second that. I know it doesn't need a second, just needs a vote.
We need a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. The question's been called. All in favor of ordinance amendment 19-5, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. With that,
And I hope it works, but it won't.
well,
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, now we have item adopt resolution calling for public hearing proposed property tax abatement. Commissioner Dahlheim, I think based on recent information.
it's,
Back up.
Item C.
Oh, yeah, sorry, C, I'm sorry.
Levy.
Special, sorry, I crossed one off ahead of time. Said special board meeting for 2020 budget and levy for December 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Dahlheim. Any further discussion?
What time is that at?
6 p.m.
6
6
p.m.
p.m.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item D, the adopt resolution calling for a public hearing on proposed property tax abatement program. I think, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I'll table that for this, and to date to be determined.
And be probably brought back into a committee of the whole to have further discussion, I think.
Yeah, there's some changes that need to be.
There's a lot of moving parts right now on this item.
All right, motion by Commissioner Dahlheim, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion?
It's to table it,
To
right?
table it to a committee of the whole at a date to be determined.
Okay.
Okay?
Mr. Chair, it just, as I was jotting this, oh, I'm sorry.
But, oh, for the, which one? The the December 3rd?
Correct. That's when so many cities and townships have their meetings. I'm just wondering if that's a good date.
Should we come back to that, because we have a motion?
Yeah, that's what I jumped in, sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table that. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we tabled that one to a to-be-determined date. Now we want to circle back to item C on the December 3rd budget levy. I know typically we've done them on Thursday nights, haven't we,
We
sometimes?
have, and, Mr. Chair, sorry I didn't, I was putting it in my calendar and it kind of hit me, oh, that's when so many cities and townships have their meetings, so I'm wondering if Tuesday night's the best night. They typically meet on Mondays and Tuesday nights.
Normally, do they meet the first week, though?
Yes, I have
Some are first
three.
and some are second.
Second, yeah.
I have three that would be meeting that day,
And do they meet at 6 or 7?
7, but
Some
if
are,
you're-
yeah.
if you're out in South Haven, it's a ways,
Would
a ways
would
away.
the 5th be better than would Thursday be better?
Thursdays, you're not going to get any city council conflicts or
I know.
township conflicts.
unless, I don't know, Wednesday,
Was there a reason why the 3rd was
then on
chosen?
Tuesday?
I don't recall specifically the 3rd, other than we were concerned on having enough time if for some reason we needed to turn around anything following that meeting, knowing we have AMC next week. Their annual conference follows that next week in December. We could go to the Thursday. We've operated on that the Tuesday the 3rd was the date for quite a while on our budget. So if we do make a change, I'm going to have to let everyone know as soon as possible.
Either way, if you guys, I'm okay with it on the 3rd, but if you guys want to move to the 5th, I'm okay with that too. I'm pliable.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Potter?
this year I don't foresee as many people
Yeah,
crowding the
that's true,
hall
too.
as last year. I don't have a problem with it being Tuesday, but if they're really concerned about the few people, because the ones I represent that have the second Tuesday of the month, they don't chime in too often over here to start with. They just, when you go and make your presentation to them, oh, okay, that's what you're doing, fine. They don't get too whipped up, they don't get too involved. Just trying to figure it was a good day. I just know Thursday night would be out for me.
Well, Otsego, I know, Otsego meets on Mondays. St. Michael meets the second Tuesday, so
I think I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay with the 3rd, so
Yeah, I would just not want to, limit
well,
people if they may or may not, but
Mr. Chair,
yes, Commissioner Dolan.
since we've got 3 months, and this is going to be out there in the public now, if we get a lot of feedback saying that it's affecting city councils and townships because they won't be able to come to it,
We could amend it.
we can amend it at that point. So let's, instead of assuming it's going to be an issue, let's find out if it will be an issue.
I guess, part of it's perception. If you're setting a meeting when a number of other city and townships have their meetings, and that's when they always meet, then, for the 3 of my 8 meet on that day. So, I don't know.
I guess just a couple thoughts. If we were going to modify it later, keep in mind we have to send that out with the notices that go out. So that's the main deadline. That takes some time to get that to the processor and printed.
When do they go
I
out?
don't recall the specific date. It has to be not before a certain date, but no later than. I don't recall those 2 dates right now. But it takes some time for those. As many companies in the counties in the state use the same company to print those.
Do you want to
down.
go at 5:30 versus 6? Because that still gives people who are home, still makes it easy well for people to attend, and that would still make people to turn around and make township meetings. I don't.
Statutorily, you have to have it later than 6
Oh,
p.m.
you gotta do it, okay, by 6, okay.
And plus, it's not that, but maybe if somebody on the town board wants to be here, or the city council, if they wanted to be here, that would be difficult for them to be here and be prepared for their meetings that night. Like I said, it's just part partially, it's out of respect for, I think, our cities and townships that meet that night.
Sure. And do you guys want to move to the 5th then, or?
Well, Commissioner Potter isn't available.
Oh, the 5th, or do you want to go to the 4th, or do you guys want to go to the 2nd and go to a Monday night?
Or the 12th?
Monday night, you're gonna have the same problem.
Yeah,
with
you
the
have-
cities.
Oh, yeah, Monday, that's right, Monday night, we can't
And I
do.
have other
I think
ones.
moving to the 12th is not a good idea. Just get
It's too late, you think?
it over with. It's not like we're not gonna have the crowds that last year, because
We're not
last
gonna
year
have-
was an anomaly.
Right.
And what you're gonna have here, most of the people are gonna come here wanting their values. That's why we have the assessor's
Right.
office here. 90%, normal years, 90% of the people in that crowd are here about their values. They came to the wrong meeting, but that's what turns out in very little discussion. And I can't see this budget stirring up the hornet's nest of people.
I agree, we may not have 5 people here, but if someone wanted to be here, but they've got for whatever reason,
But that could be any day.
it could, but
You can pick a date and it's
Right.
going to be an issue for
But I
somebody.
mean, cities and townships meet on Mondays and Tuesday nights, so.
Not all of them, and Commissioner Hewsome.
Do you want to go Wednesday night?
Having one that served on these boards, he's at the municipal level, if it's important enough, one member of that group will come here on behalf of that, and if they're 10 minutes late to their meeting, it happens all the time. I mean, somebody's always 5 to 10 minutes late because they're at another meeting, something else. It happens a lot more than you realize.
But I just think out of respect for our cities and townships that have a night that they're not meeting.
Well, again, since we have some time, we can change it next week. Let's find out if it's going to be an issue.
How do you know
Since-
if it's gonna,
By talking to those.
Unless it has
Those
to
ones
go
you're
out in the
concerned
mail.
about.
I don't know.
Well, statutorily, you're supposed to set it on the same day
Right.
as you.
So why don't we do the December 4th then? How's that then? Everybody just want to
do
go on
the
a
4th?
Wednesday night then? Then
I
we're,
mean, the argument
we're-
then I've heard is
Religion
it's
class.
religion night.
Religion night, yeah.
okay, then we're just going to
seem
go
to
on
recall-
Saturday, December 7th. We're going to make everybody give up a Saturday night at 6 o'clock. I knew that.
I mean, there's always challenges scheduling. I just will say too, it is of course, a public hearing. If there are comments that want to be submitted ahead of time, please submit them to myself. And we've read them to into the record in the past. It's always a challenge looking at, I seem to recall a conflict with the auditor's schedule on the 5th. As I look at his calendar, it appears that is the challenge on that date as well. So
Mr.
there's
Chair.
no great date. Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
If something comes up where a township or somebody wants to say, we can always continue that meeting for the next week or another day. Because if something does come up, you can. That's why you want to do these early in case something does come up. And you say, okay, we have to continue this next Monday or Tuesday or whatever that day would be till the next. I don't see this as being a end of the world type thing.
And I think though that when Wednesday is, church night for a lot of people, but usually those meetings start at 7. So if you had this at 6 in there, that,
But the same goes for the city and townships. So that same statement goes for city and
Yeah,
township.
because they start at 7.
yeah.
And, okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Also, if it was important for a township, if they were worried about this, they can make their next meeting start at 7:30 instead of 7 if they wanted to come to this meeting. They have that ability to do that, to shift their hours around pretty easy. I just don't see it as being a big problem. I think it's with staff and everything else. I think this is a good day to get this done with, because the following week we got the AMC conference. And then I'm concerned about if it gets too late into December, then whatever else comes up, if something does come up, then you're pushing the time issue. Like I say, with this preliminary budget being out, people are gonna see it. I can't imagine that I'm gonna get much pushback on this one. Last year got a lot of pushback, but just because of the size of it, but this year I'm not seeing that.
So, right now, we've already adopted December 3rd. Are we going to, is it the consensus here that we're going to stick with December 3rd at 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
We've already made the motion.
And it's already voted, all right.
I mean, if 4 are in favor, that's, that's.
I mean,
No, All five were in favor, all five voted.
You voted, but after I brought it up again.
She wants to change her vote.
I can't change my vote,
can't
but
Okay.
It's understandable.
So with that, once again, we're getting late here in the day. I know I have a meeting here coming up here in about 20 minutes. But if you guys want to go through advisory committee updates, Commissioner Brill, you want to start it off?
Great, Charlie, thank you.
No, well, just, Mark could maybe talk about it too, but we met with Jay Weatherford from the Wright County Community Action last week, and Jay is just a fantastic director or whatever for us, and he's always just looking to get more things in, and he's working on, especially with some senior things right now, some different issues, so, but it's nothing concrete right now, but it's just, we had a nice meeting is all. Oh, and then, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That's something else, but that's good. I'm good.
since we last had our updates, Chair Vetch and I had the nuclear exercise, and that went really quite well. It's a very intense 4 hours. You're down at Homeland Security, and I was here at the Emergency Operations Center, but it's a lot to keep up with, but it's very good exercise and knowing really what we do in case of an actual event. There's just a few things. The Public Works Labor Management met, and we are 3 engineers short in our highway department, so they've been hiring consultants to do a lot of the engineering, help with that, and it's been the busiest construction season yet, and it looks like, next year is going to be even busier, but they've kept moving all summer. The Safe Communities of Wright County also met, and we had a presentation by State Patrol Kevin Brisk on it was a accident, a crash that could have been really prevented, and 3 of the kids in the crash were not wearing seat belts, and it was a very, very moving video. The Drive Right, or the no longer Drive Right, the parent-teen driver safety classes, they've had over 509 students participating, and everyone that goes through those classes really says that, it helps change their driving habits and their attitudes. The Car Fit event is going to be held on Friday, November 15th from 9 to 12 at the Wright County Sheriff's Office Support Services Garage. And this is a new event covered by a grant, and it addresses how cars fit those ages 55 and over. And Deputy Brian Johnson, actually Sergeant Brian Johnson, is helping coordinate this. And so anyone that is in those ages, they can check into that and go in and see, how to adjust your, seats, and you might need extensions on your rearview mirrors and that kind of thing. So the Workforce Center, businesses are struggling to find and retain workers. Our state currently has nearly 137,000 vacant positions. So a lot going on with that. Faribault Foods is closing, and they actually put out bids to have someone come in to help the dislocated workers when they're losing 100 jobs like that. And so anyway, our Central Minnesota Jobs and Training is working with the 26 employers. There's 67 job seekers, so they're helping try to find positions for them. And yeah, lots with grants, lots of great information about different career paths in agriculture and food industry. We get so much information when we go to these meetings. And also I went to the drug court meeting, and the judges and their committee members have done both national drug court training in Washington DC and also state court training, and both went very well, and they really helped identify like what are the roles of the different members of the team. And there is a graduate from the drug court on September 26th, so that would be Thursday at 1:30. So if anyone is open to the public and people can go and hear their stories and applaud those who've successfully gone through the drug court, which is a very intense program.
Nuclear drill went well, especially with all the new technology. I tell you, the drill went better than the practice, but that's why we have practice.
You know.
So that we're
Way
better
better.
when it comes to the drill. Been having meetings and working on the Central Mississippi River Partnership and creating a new JPA based on kind of the changes that are coming forward. It's still an ongoing discussion. We'll have a meeting then in Elk River for the first time. We'll be moving from Monticello to Elk River at 7:30 a.m. So new location. Sounds like it's going to be well attended. But the JPA is going to be some ongoing discussions. So we'll be bringing forward. We're going to go out with an RFQ now for our planning study. The other pieces that are going on, I've out there still working on getting people educated on the Ditch 33 piece, so that's kind of an ongoing discussion piece that we'll be bringing forward, what repairs will eventually happen and what that'll look like, but I don't think that'll be anytime soon, at least not when I say soon, within the next couple months. Other sides of things, we had, I guess actually that's all I have at this point. Oh, today we have our Wright County Transit Advisory meeting today at 2 o'clock with the
2
cities.
o'clock?
2 o'clock today, yep, Trailblazer.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner Dodd?
Regarding the parks, I don't know if you guys have looked at all the minutes, but we've had some discussions about allowing some of the food trucks and ice cream trucks to go into the parks. So that's kind of an ongoing discussion on do we want to allow them just when there's a specific party going on, or do we allow them to come in and specific dates or days or whatever? So any input you guys have on that, let us know.
Yeah. They do that in Sturgis Park when they have their concerts in the park. The Sugar Mamas comes down with ice cream. But
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, we don't want them smoking. Do we want them not having sugar too? I mean, look at some of the places that they're trying to outlaw diet pop now.
Splenda, bad for you. Same as that's part of
It's all bad for you. Makes no difference.
Commissioner Blyden, life is the #1 cause of death.
Yeah, it is. I'll agree. I also had mental health on the 10th, mental health task force. There's still a huge shortage of beds. They're looking at updating some of the new posters for suicide awareness, especially among youngster farmers, which I guess is a very major concern right now. And there was something else on there that I just can't recall, and I left my notes somewhere.
it is Suicide Awareness Month or Prevention Month, September.
Yep. And I think that was it. Yeah. Enough.
Well, thank you. We had Mayor's Association meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for
quarterly,
mentioning that.
And Eric from Soil and Water put on a nice presentation
Yes.
on how they can assist cities in either rain gardens or erosion control and different aspects there. I thought he did a very good job, and it was his birthday, so happy birthday to him. And
Yes.
it was intriguing, and I think a lot of the cities didn't realize that there was that asset sitting there that they could tap if needed, because sometimes instead of having an engineer or somebody go out there, they can get some questions answered to see, is this where the path you want to go down, or how deep do you want to go, or what is the problem? I thought it was a very good presentation. I was impressed, and I believe everybody in there was impressed with that presentation also. A lot of things there. The other thing is today, tomorrow morning, a group from the I-94 Coalition is going out to DC for the last little push. We put an application for $25 million in the build grant money for that stretch from Albertville to Monticello. And just that last little push to get there to see if this can help. I mean, we're still hoping that the Transportation Secretary Cho is able to get out to Minnesota here in the next month. This will help with the push because she has a final say, and if she gets to see some of the interactions, congestion, maybe it'll help her have more of a realization of what's going on here. Hopefully that's going on. Get her out here for that. Good luck with them out there. The other thing, this Thursday we're going to have a MnDOT, which is with the I-94 Metro MnDOT at the Maple Grove Government Center that has to do with 94 with 610, that aspect. So I will be there with that group to show support for them because it's all about that 40-mile stretch that we're trying to get completed here. And hopefully, like I say, more information for the people. And then we have a transportation summit with Transportation Alliance that later on that day in St. Paul at the Carpenters Union. And that has to do with what are some of the issues facing us to the next legislative session and to see where we go from here. And legislators are invited, and hopefully quite a few of them show up, especially the chairs of the committees to grant us hearings on some of the things and have them make decisions on filling the basically $1 billion per year funding gap that they have right now, and trying to peck away at that so we don't keep growing that, because just a few years ago it was like $600 or $700 million a year. Now it just keeps growing every year. You don't deal with it, it just gets worse. That's all I have.
Is there a meeting in Maple Grove regarding I-94 this week, or was that last week?
No, that's this Thursday.
That's when you
at
just mentioned,
7 in the
yeah.
morning.
Okay.
7:30.
Oh, we did, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's this.
Trying to feel
Right
my
there,
calendar.
you're going to come to our CMRP meeting, aren't you, Commissioner Dolly?
No,
No,
not at this point.
not at this point. He's going to hold out for a little bit yet.
Well, hello. It's been a busy month, as you all know. A lot of the things I've been attending, a lot of you were at. But of course, we had 2 groundbreakings of the Government Center and Tactical Training Center on the 9th and the 16th. Was at the fall AMC's Fall Policy Conference, which I thought was an interesting set of topics they chose for their keynotes this year. On demographics, the different states that have legalized marijuana came in and gave an interesting presentation. Also about the census, and also with the individual.
Are we going to vote on that here?
Was not planning on it. AMC is staying advised of the issue, but is not taking a side one way or the other. So it did receive a lot. I know I participated in the general government policy, and there was a lot of discussion about that. Didn't end up making the platform, but also had an interesting meeting with Perry Mulcrone, who's with Scott County, has done a lot of their fiber and broadband development. We learned, we didn't know what we didn't know. There's a lot to learn, and he's really helped that county build it out, so he's a good resource that was pointed to us. So more discussion to come as we talk strategically for the county. That might be something we want to consider, what steps we want to take to deploy or help that process to develop further west into the county. So
I think my brain is still bleeding from all the information. It was a lot to take in.
yes, very knowledgeable guy. Actually ran into him at the policy committee a couple of days before too, had a brief discussion then, so appreciate him coming out.
Oh, there is one thing. I met with Matt and Tammy and Denise from the auditor's office regarding that we need to set some parameters that are black and white for some of our ditches. An example is the one that I spoke about at that last week regarding a person that has 2 crossings going to the same field, and one of them is just strictly being used for four-wheeling, and it was something that was put in after the ditch, so it's,
I mean, both of
You
them.
mean like,
well, it could have been, It's, yeah,
Like a culvert
field
or-
crossing, yeah, and then he rip-wrapped it with tires and stuff like that. And then we have some, on some ditches that are old wooden bridges that are, 100 years old. And they want to go with the wooden bridges again, which is going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than a concrete. So I think we need to come up with some stated black and white. This is going to be the county ditch policy that you want a wooden bridge, fine. A concrete bridge is, or the concrete culvert is going to cost us this. And I guess some of it is pretty heavy-duty bridges because they're hauling some pretty big equipment across. But if you want the wooden bridges, here's what we're paying, you make the difference. Because there's absolutely no reason for people that benefit on those rolls to pay for
Somebody's aesthetics.
Yeah, thousands of dollars more for,
Yep, and not only that, but for two crossings that were not, so we need to come up with some hard parameters on that. It'll make it easier for Matt and those guys. And then it'll be black and white for the residents. And then they can come up to us, they can come up to us and tell us, no, that was in the ditch, here are the minutes. That was put in later, but yeah,
Sounds like a committee of the whole.
looks like we're having another ditch committee of the whole.
Yeah.
I really think we do need to have that one. It's,
As we go along in this process,
You were
these
finding
things
out
come
more.
up, right? So it's good to,
But this is one thing I think we need to do fairly soon, just
yeah.
to get those, especially with that we'll be bidding more and more. Sure.
Maybe agenda item next week, set committee of the whole for the.
So, anyway, something to think about.
All right.
Aye.
Anybody else have anything else? Otherwise, I guess